Good morning, Stampers. Today we're going to make a watercolor card, birthday card, with some handmade tatting that I made for my students. This little motif right here. It's called Hen and Chick, and I've put some pearls on it to kind of make it a little bit more Victorian, kind of fancy. We're using the Pleasant Poppies background stamp, the oval framelets. The paper that the cardstock base is in color, which is Raspberry Ripple. Of course, the poppies are stamped on the watercolor paper. The embossed background is on Naturals White. And the embossing folder that I used is Vintage Wallpaper. And that's mounted and matted to a piece of craft or crumb cake. I always want to call it craft because that's what we used to call it. I used the cupcake, Happy Birthday cupcake stamp set for the sentiment to get Happy Birthday out of. I'm using the Vintage Brads and another little piece of tatting that I made that each person could have to go around their brad. And then I'm using the Rose Red seam binding. It matches a little bit better with the softness of this card versus the actual ribbon that matches the Raspberry Ripple, which has the little dots on it. Okay, so let's get started. So what we want to do first, of course, is to watercolor our stamped image. And I have stamped it on the watercolor paper. And I've gone ahead and done my shading in the background with craft. And the way I watercolor, you can refer back to about 2 to 3 months ago. I gave a tutorial on how I do the watercoloring. And I use the fine tip aqua painter. Stampin' Up! Doesn't sell this extra fine tip. They sell the green one and blue one, which is a little bit larger tip than this. But for these poppies, you really need the extra fine tip. You can find it a lot of places online. I also had that information in my previous tutorial. And what I use is a piece of tile, or you can use one of your clear acrylic blocks. And I just take my marker and I just scribble some color on there. And that's where I'm going to pick it up from. I don't like to mess up the inside of my ink pad lids like some people do. I don't want to squish it down and do that. You're going to need a paper towel because as soon as you put water on here, you need to blot off a little bit of it. But the first thing you want to do is just color in the whole flower with just a good coating of the watered down color, which is going to be a nice pink. It's not going to be very dark because you're just going to water it down and paint in the whole blossom. The ones that you can see the centers, like right here of this one where you can see the center, leave that because it'll be a little bit easier to put some yellow in there if it's not so red already. And have your hair dryer close by so you can blow this dry and get going, because you can't go back and shade until each piece is dry, because it'll just muddy it up and you won't have any shading. It'll just kind of all go together. So you're going to color each one of them in like that. When you've dried it with your hair dryer, you're going to pick up just some of the pure color, and the places that would be shading, which are like right here, which is a seam. This part right here is in front of that. Just lay down your color with the fine tip and then just walk it out. Don't color it all the way in because that'll defeat the purpose of it looking like it's shaded. So just lay the dark color in, walk it out to the edges. Anywhere that you think a shadow should be, and then walk it out to the edge. And don't walk it out even, you know, make some little, kind of push the paint around, push the ink around. You can refer to a lot of different watercoloring sites online to get a better idea of what that means by pushing the color around, because a lot of watercolor artists, that's what they do. They don't actually paint it on, they push the color around because it is water and it'll just run everywhere, and that gives it that variegated, natural look. So you're going to color in your buds, color in all your flowers, get that all nice and dry. And then you want to take your straight marker. You can use Summer Sun, Daffodil Yellow, just a nice bright yellow, and you want to take the brush tip and just run down every stem with the yellow. Now, some people say, how do you do that so straight and stay in the lines? Well, first of all, you don't press down very hard on the tip because the pens have plenty of ink in them. But the way to do it is, if you're right-handed, you want to do it the way you write, which is this way. You know, you write with your hand. So put your point there and just as if you were writing. Don't try to do like this and color it backwards, because that's backwards to you. Unless you're left-handed. If you're left-handed, then you'd be going the opposite direction. If it's easier for you to draw straight lines doing this, or straight lines doing that, if it's easier for you to pull a straight line down, then you want to pull down. To me, it's easier to do it just like I'm writing. That way I can hold the tip nice and light against the paper. Just like that. And you just want to do each one of them with the yellow. And you don't have to really wait for it to dry. You want to take your old olive pen and just using the very tip of it, kind of use like your dot, dot, dash, dash type drawing to go down each stem, because you want some of the yellow still to show through. Like that. And just try not to cover up all your yellow. Just a little dots and dashes. Just kind of pull it along right there. Okay, and then, let's get that one because it'll show in my oval. Then you're going to take Always Artichoke and use the fine tip of the pen, the writing tip, and you're just going to go like underneath the bases of all the blooms, make it darker, and then kind of just do some down the side that's opposite of what you know, if you made your flowers light on this side, that's where the light's coming from. So the opposite side of your stem, it's going to be very dark, so just run your dark right there, but make sure you make the base of all the flowers dark, because the stems would be in the shade there, like that. And when you get it all done, let it completely dry. Then you're going to use the oval framelets, and you're going to cut out, ta-da, the magic of video, your oval. And just pick out what you know, out of your flowers, once you get them colored, what you think looks the best, and just capture just those. Then I'm going to take a toothpick or something. I'm just going to use the end of an old pencil here. And I'm going to dab on a little of the glitter glue, I guess is what you would call it, from Stampin' Up. It's like if you have the stickles, that's the same type thing will work. I'm just going to put a little bit right here on my tile palette. And I'm going to take something like the end of this old paintbrush, and I'm just going to put some on there. And I'm just going to dab it on the light areas of the flower. Oh, on the inside of your flowers right there, just color those in with your yellow marker. Just pick up a little bit of this. You can just use your finger to dab it on if you don't have a toothpick, cocktail straw. If you're having a cocktail, you can just use your cocktail straw. There you go. Just put a little bit of the shiny on there. Okay, and so our little, that part's ready. And then you're going to take a sponge dauber and your craft colored ink, and we're just going to sponge the edges. And remember, less is more. I know a lot of people like it just real antique, but I think it makes it look too dirty when you do too much. So we don't want to overdo that process. Okay. Now our little oval's ready. I'm going to lay it off to the side. I've embossed a piece of Naturals White, and I have used the sponge dauber again and the craft, and I have sponged all the edges and then kind of just daubed a little around hither yon like that. Just make sure you want to get it like especially on the edges like that, because that's what makes it blend better with the mat that it's on, because the mat is crumb cake. And then these two pieces are going to get matted together. I'm going to go ahead and do that because I want to show you how you put the tatting on. And